Hi, this is Johnny, your friendly local realtor, here to bring you the up-to-date housing market report for March 2022. It's hard to believe that it's been exactly 2 years since the pandemic hit our nation and swept across the country. This pandemic really changed our lives, and housing definitely wasn't immune to that. There were lots of changes in the housing market, and one thing that's most notable would have to be the home price appreciation. Today, we're going to look into home prices and its appreciation, and see how supply and demand is going to impact home prices moving forward. So let's start by looking at where we are in home price appreciation. This graph represents year-over-year change in home prices for each month since January 2021. As you can see on the left, we had 10% home price appreciation from January 2020 to January 2021, and we've been on an acceleration until we met the summer months. From July, we see the numbers starting to level at 18%, an incredible home price appreciation, but this was when we heard experts talking about home prices continuing to increase, but at a moderate pace. But later, we saw the numbers rising again in December into January 2022. Now, this is the result of low supply and high demand, more buyers competing for lesser amount of homes. Now, if we look at this on state-by-state basis, it gets very interesting. This map produced from FHFA's data shows changes in prices in a year at fourth quarter 2021. As you can see, we had a varying price appreciation between the states, but we didn't have a single state that had a depreciation in prices. The national average appreciation was at 17.5, but our state of Georgia had little higher appreciation than the national average at 20.9%. Now let's break this down even more, because it gets more interesting if we go further back in time. If we go back past 5 years from fourth quarter 2021, the national average appreciation is at 54.4 and Georgia at 65.1. Now this is due to lower supply and higher demand that we had each year from the year before, ultimately resulting in home price appreciation to continue. Of course, we had most appreciation in 2021, but understanding that this appreciation trend is not a recent event is crucial. Now, how about if we go further back in time and see what kind of changes we had, let's say, past 30 years. If we look at this change in prices since 1991, the national average appreciation is at an incredible 258%. So if you're wondering when is the good time to buy, the answer is apparent looking at this data. We need to know that historically, homes have been very strong investment, and its prices are going to continue to appreciate moving forward. So as we move forward, as people are trying to decide whether to buy now or wait, what should we expect for the rest of the year? Let's take a look at the latest home price projections. Here you see 7 entities making forecasts. Now they range at high from 9.6 to low at 3%, and the green bar on the left is an average of these 7 forecasts at 6.1. But what's important to understand here is that all these experts are projecting home prices to rise this year, and if I were to add my projection, I believe the home prices will rise more than 6.1%, and I also believe these experts will also raise their projections as we go into the year. And again, the rise in prices will be due to supply and demand. Okay, so let's talk about supply and demand for a moment, because it's important to really understand why we're seeing accelerating home prices. If you look at this chart, you can tell that we're in the seller's market because average time a home stays in the market before being sold is currently less than 6 months. But right now, homes are being sold much quicker, and this duration is getting shorter every day because most of the homes that enter the market right now are being sold immediately. If you look at this graph, this represents active listings in the market every month last year. As you can see that the active listings are falling from October towards the end of the year. This means that homes are turning pending as quickly as they enter the market and doesn't stay active too long. And the speed in which this is happening is quicker every month. This all translates to higher buyer demand as time progresses because there aren't enough homes available for sale in the market. And the truth is, anytime we start to see low inventory like this, prices rise. So you can see from this graph that inventory is driving the current real estate market. So as prices of homes start to skyrocket, people start to wonder about what's happening in the housing market. They start to compare what happened in 2008 to what's happening now, because they remember the home prices skyrocketing in 2008, and they start to remember the housing bubble. If you look at this graph, this is a consumer survey done recently by Realtor.com. you can see here that 77% of people currently believe that what we're seeing now is a bubble where they live, and that this bubble is about to burst. Now, this is 3 out of every 4 people believing this, and what's really shocking is that currently, 44% of real estate agents, almost half of the agents out there, also believe that current situation is a bubble. In every monthly market report since the pandemic, I've been saying that the current event that we're seeing in the housing market is not a bubble, and that the home prices will continue to rise. But let me bring some data again to show you briefly why current situation is not a bubble. If you look at this chart, this represents supply of inventory months of December for each year. The orange bars on the left are from 2007 to 2010, and it represents the years of housing market crash. And you can clearly see that we were in the buyer's market with oversupply of homes because it took on average 7.3 to 9.6 months to sell a home. But now if you look at the 4 blue graphs on the right that represents last 4 years, you can see that we're in the seller's market. The months of inventory is significantly lower than 2008, and it's declining every year. So when there's lower numbers of homes available for purchase, that drives the prices up. Due to 2008 being relatively a recent event, it's easy to think what's happening now is going to end up being like 2008. But the truth of the matter is, what's happening now is completely different. We are nowhere near where we were the last time. The home price appreciation that we're seeing right now is due to supply and demand. And speaking of demand, I'd like to show you what the current buyer demand looks like. On this graph, you can see how many homes were sold in the last 3 years. In 2019, we set a record for most numbers of homes sold in the country by selling 5.3 million homes. That record was broken in 2020, and again broken in 2021 by selling 6.1 million homes. And this was a 15-year record-setting event. So what does this mean? There are lots of buyers out there looking for homes, and they're making the purchase. And all this is representing high buyer demand. This is significantly different fundamentally than where the housing market was when the bubble burst in 2008. Another chart that I like to show you is how eligibility for receiving loan has changed since 2008. Today, people who are purchasing homes can really afford them. Because if you look at this data, you can see how lending standards have gotten tighter after 2008. This is the volume of loans in Bilions with credit score less than 620. So from 2003 to 2007, represented in orange bars, you can see significantly more loans were issued to buyers who had a credit score less than 620 compared to where we are now. And after 2008 up to today, you can see that the lending standards have gotten much stricter, and only the buyers that have good credentials are able to receive loans. So again, different lending standards are creating different landscape that's nothing like what we saw last time. Credit scores are definitely much tighter this time around. Now, one more thing that we need to know is that homeowners have significantly more equity in their homes than 2008, so people are in much better financial position as homeowners right now. So in conclusion, fundamentally, housing market right now is very different than what we had in 2008. But the reality is, people still have concerns, and I hope the data that I brought to you could ease those fears and bring you the confidence in making that important real estate decision. I'll see you again next month with more up-to-date real estate information. Goodbye.